Hello YouTube. This is going to be the introduction to my series of puzzle modding tutorials. This is probably the most requested thing on this channel for the daily videos. Everybody wants to, lots and lots of people want to get into modding, but they don't really know where to start or have the knowledge. Most of the stuff I'll be explaining in these videos is just stuff that I've learned by myself, because there is not too much out there on modding. So this is just going to be an overview of kind of how this is going to work. I'm basically going to be following, for the majority of this, the building of this puzzle, which is the Giga RL Minx or Rula Minx. It's going to be an absolute mammoth, and it's going to require tons of epoxy sculpt, which I don't have at the moment. So for the very beginning at least, I'm just going to be doing like a 3x3 mod. And basically some of these videos are going to be very short, some of these videos are going to be longer, and they're just going to be going over tips, tricks, little bits of information here and there, kind of compiled. Like one of them will be how to pillow puzzles nicely. Process of that, it's kind of in some ways a lot easier than it sounds, in some ways a lot harder than it sounds. And yeah, just stuff like that. And I'll kind of make it in a sort of progressively more difficult order. So in the beginning it's going to be like half truncated cubes, very basic steps on this, the general things, and then it's going to move on to maybe a little bit more of extending. I'll show the finishing process of this, and I know today was super busy, but tomorrow is the day for this. Today I had tons of stuff, but so there'll be finishing processes and basically just the steps from going from a basic puzzle to a custom puzzle, kind of like that. Now, one of the things that I get a lot is like people are saying like, hey, I want to start, I have epoxy sculpt, or I don't have epoxy sculpt and I have puzzles to mod, but I'm worried that I'm going to ruin them. Now, once you've built a slight bit of confidence in puzzle modding, which I suggest you start on 3x3s, really you got to just start taking risks. And I know this sounds a little bit dumb, but you kind of just have to risk it sometimes. Sometimes you gotta accept that maybe when you cut into a 5x5, it will not work. Something will go wrong, you lose a piece, something like that. Stuff happens, basically. And the main thing is, again, you gotta kind of have to just go for it. You gotta pass through that hurdle and just start building. And the more you build, the more confidence you have. Now, I was not an extremely experienced modder when I built this, which was basically risking a 9x9. I was like, I am going to try to do this modification, but I don't even know if it's going to work. It was right when the 9x9 came out, so it was $100 on the line. It could be a complete failure. And it did work out in the end, but there was a chance, and it came literally just this close from not working. So sometimes you got to take risks. The person who's doing the 11x11 barrel, I believe they're just on the very final step, but yeah, they don't want to take the risk of the last step. I guess there was something risky about it, I'm not sure, so they're just not doing it. But sometimes you got to take the risks. So yeah, again, it'll kind of progress from basic tools like this. I'll kind of try to explain a little bit of how I got to them. I think sandpaper is a pretty universally used thing. A little bit on how I use hacksaws. I don't even have it like attached to anything. I just have this like blade. And you'd be amazed the things that got built from this just blade. And all of the cuts of this puzzle were made with pliers. I actually just pried off pieces. It's jagged. I mean, really, you don't need to have fancy stuff. A Dremel, a belt sander, those help for huge projects. or complicated or difficult to make projects, but they're certainly not something you need to begin. So don't think that you need like tons of stuff. I mean, this plus super glue, and I'm trying to see where's I just use. Anyways, everybody knows what super glue looks like, but you know, super glue. You can make quite a bit with just those two things. And I'll start off maybe with something like that, something basic, and then we'll move into epoxy sculpt, which when you enter the realm of shape mods and bigger project, it starts becoming a lot more necessary. Now again, the difficulty is going to be like going from half truncated cube to basic to maybe some extending, and then maybe moving on to some more complex shape mods. Basically this, which I'd consider a slightly more complex shape mod than any 3x3, but not so bad. Definitely not beyond our capabilities. And then I'll move on from something like this, which is a slightly more complex shape mod than normal, and that'll involve pillowing as well, so we'll get some experience with pillowing. To moving on to the realm of the little bit more difficult shape mechanism mods, which are quite difficult, which are like the 8x8 that I made, and whoops, wrong puzzle. This, except like bigger versions like this. This is a mechanism mod, but it's pretty basic. Like the 3x3x7 is a big, complex mechanism mod. So, you know, we'll start progressing from that, and I think the higher end of that kind of spectrum is going to be like the 8x8, and then I guess it'll start moving into the absolute most difficult mod I've ever worked on, which is not finished. It's the 13x13. So I'll do some filming while I make the 13x13 of some of the steps. You can see here, this is a master edge which is going to be casted, and the whole section has been extended to a point. And this is going to be this is some pretty basic at first looking stuff. I mean, the splitting of this edge was very precise, and it came about from a lot of work, but like this kind of stuff's pretty easy. But when you start getting into like those pieces that I casted, those are a little more complex, and then the extending on there is pretty complex. The whole core problem is, it's just so many different things, it's difficult to jumble. So we're going to be tackling very complex projects, like stuff that's starting to begin, like I think the 13x13 is starting to begin to be like the like Trifum or Tony Fisher level of puzzle building. But so hopefully we'll go in the series from beginners to almost masters mods, and we'll start very gradually. So that's that for this video. This is just the camera's getting loose here. Anyways, this is just the intro. I don't have time to edit anything today. I'm really busy, and this is the only opportunity I got. So, yeah, thank you for watching.